This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia, Texas State Representative and author of the book Wealth Warrior. This week on the podcast, we are going to go over some inflation data that came in last week, as well as job reports. And then, of course, we have oil that hit a new all-time high overnight. Last week, we received Producer Price Index data, also known as PPI. PPI measures the cost of producing goods and services, also known as wholesale prices. So for the month of January, we did see wholesale prices increase. If the cost to produce goods and services increases, the retailers initially take that on and then eventually pass it down to consumers. This will drive up inflation. So the actual increase for the month of January was 0.5%. Analysts were expecting a 0.3% increase. For the month of December, we had a 0.4% increase. So you do see a 0.1% increase in comparison to the month prior. And we have an annual increase for core PPI that came in at 3.6%, which is a relatively high increase year over year. Core PPI is something I hardly ever talk about. That is when food and energy is stripped out of the index and things like furniture, cars, something that is manufactured is what is measured. So our annual core PPI with food and energy stripped out came in at 3.6%. This is relatively high and I believe to be somewhat concerning. Overall, PPI data that includes food and energy came in at 2.9%. Now, our target for all of these indexes that I talk about on this podcast is 2%. The Fed is trying to normalize the rate of inflation, which is 2%. That is something that we can expect year over year on average. Right now, as I just mentioned for PPI, the rate of inflation came in at 2.9%. This is still an increase. So when you hear Trump or his administration arguing that inflation has come down, yes, inflation has come down in comparison to how high it was back in 2020 and 2021 when we were seeing inflation at a rate of 8 to 9% increase year over year. This doesn't mean that the price of food, goods, and services are coming down. This means that the rate of increase in prices is not as high as it was at one point. But we are still seeing the price of our food, goods, and services go up. You feel it, I feel it. We have seen an increase on our food of 30% just within the last 6 years, which is an astronomical amount. And of course, we have not seen our paychecks increase by 30% within the last 6 years, at least for the most of us. So we are feeling the impact of prices increase. But the Trump administration will tell you that that is a hoax, despite the data. And so I just want to make sure that we are clear and that everyone understands that we are still experiencing inflation. To experience prices actually coming down, this is called deflation. We are not experiencing deflation. I want to make sure we're clear because no Investies podcast listener is going to get gaslit. Not on my watch.
Hey, want a cookie? Oh, I know you just ate, so you're craving something a little sweet. Besides, one cookie isn't going to kill you. How about half? Just a bite? Bite it. Bite it. Bite it.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. Your affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on a path to successful weight loss by quieting food noise.
Bite it.
Shh. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
1 second, you're finally cleaning out the gutters. The next, the fire alarm blares from inside. Smoke billows out the kitchen window. These are the wake-up calls that happen daily. In 1 second, everything can change. ADT knows that nobody wants to feel unsafe or unprepared for an emergency, especially in their own home. That's why they offer affordable DIY security systems you can set up yourself and monitor from virtually anywhere with the ADT Plus app. They're customizable so you can set up the system that works best for you and keep an eye on it in real time. And ADT security technology is designed for peace of mind by making it easier for first responders to identify your house. They have the most company-operated monitoring centers in the industry, which means you'll get the alerts that matter for you and your home. You tackle that to-do list, ADT will help make sure your home's protected. When every second counts, count on ADT. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
All right, so the numbers for wholesale prices went up in the month of January. This is definitely a concern. We keep getting mixed data on some of the indexes show we're coming down in some areas, and then we get another report and it tells us a different story pertaining to the jobs. 1 month we're doing great, the other month it's a complete disaster. So right now I feel like there's a lot of volatility in the market and not necessarily a sense of direction. Typically when these reports are coming out, we start to see a trend of a decline, and it tells a similar story across the board. We're not necessarily seeing that, and so I feel like we're kind of all over the place, which feels true to what we are experiencing with everything going on right now. We will get more clarity on inflation. March 13th, the PCE data will be released. That is Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index. This index tells us what we are spending on. It is a measure of what people are actually purchasing. That gives us a much better understanding of how we are handling inflation. This is the measure that the Fed prefers to use when making decisions on whether they are going to lower interest rates, increase interest rates, or sustain interest rates where they are. Okay, let's switch over to the February jobs report, the private jobs report, also known as ADP report, automatic data processing. This report is in collaboration with the Stanford lab. It was released last week. This is a report that tells us how many jobs were added from the private sector. ADP is a payroll processing and human service software. This report is similar to the non-farm payroll report, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. However, the difference is that this is conducted from the private sector. Now, if you have been listening to Investies, you know that I prefer to listen to the ADP report over the one that is conducted by the government. I've complained about it over and over for years. It is the one that I believe is outdated and we shouldn't even be using. We need to scrap it and figure out a new way to conduct these reports. Okay, so for the month of February, the ADP job report showed us that we actually came in better than expected. The analysts were expecting 50,000 jobs added to the private sector, and the actual amount that came in was 63,000 jobs, so much better than what we experienced the month prior in January, which was 11,000 jobs added. So this is positive news as it increased higher than analysts expected and, of course, higher than the month prior. The driver of the job creation was education and health services. This is the same sector that increased the month before. So the month before coming in at 11,000, it would have been a negative number except for the fact that education and health services added a big amount of employees to the sector. So last month, that sector really carried us. Now, manufacturing is the sector that continues to decline despite the increase in tariffs. Now, one of the reasons that Trump implemented tariffs was so that we would drive manufacturing here in the United States. That seems to be backfiring because we are not seeing the increase in job manufacturing. However, we are seeing sustained inflation and increase in prices from tariffs. So there's that. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the report I'm not a fan of, publishes the non-farm payroll report. Sometimes I get asked, what does non-farm mean? And it makes total sense when you are completely removed from farm area, from a rural area. It doesn't click. And so non-farm payroll literally means that no jobs pertaining to a farm are included in this report. Now, this report came in negative. There wasn't job increase. There was jobs decrease. The U.S. economy reported 92,000 jobs lost in the month of February. This is down from the increase of 126,000 jobs added in January. Analysts were expecting an increase of 58,000 jobs added to the economy. So we came in at negative 92,000 jobs. The BLS, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, reported that the unemployment rate moved slightly higher to 4.4% compared to what we saw last month at 4.3%. Analysts were expecting it to remain unchanged from the last month at 4.3%. So that did come in higher than analysts expected. The healthcare sector led the decrease with 28,000 jobs, which completely contradicts the ADP jobs report. We need to figure out a way to get this done. Like, it blows my mind that we have all of this technology, all of this AI, and we still cannot figure out how to report jobs. I've mentioned this before, but what people actually do is pick up the phone and make phone calls to a handful of businesses to quantify these numbers. Anyways, in this report, healthcare led the decrease with 28,000 jobs, followed by leisure and hospitality, losing 27,000, and construction dropped 11,000. The information services sector also dropped 11,000. The information services sector is something that we also continue to see a decline in. This is, of course, because the AI implementation in companies. Let's go ahead and switch gears here. Last week on Investies podcast, I did briefly talk to you about oil prices. Now, last night we did see oil prices spike. This is the highest spike we have seen since 2022. We saw a spike last night of $119 a barrel. The last time we saw this was in February of 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. The invasion created huge concerns about the supply disruptions from one of the world's major oil producers. This is what sent oil prices spiking, similar to what we are seeing now. As many of you all might already know, the Strait of Hormuz has been blocked. This is a path where oil tankers drive through to exchange oil to different parts of the world. This is the exchange route. And so Iran has closed down this route, which of course means that there are some countries that are not currently receiving oil, therefore driving up oil prices. We continue here in the United States to be concerned with how this is going to drive up inflation and, of course, impact us here. It feels like such a frivolous concern with all of the things that are currently taking place. It's giving Kim, people are dying, but nonetheless, this is what the market is concerned about. The spike in oil prices, of course, had an impact on the stock market this morning as the market opened negative. We also had a negative week last week. I expect to continue to see oil prices and the Strait of Hormuz being blocked to be what is going to impact the stock market the most, unless, of course, something crazier happens, which is most likely the possibility these days. So we shall wait and see how this unfolds. For those that have taken my course, you will be one of the ones that understands this. I did go back and look at NAT. Remember the stock NAT, Nordic American Tanker, and we are currently seeing a slight increase. However, no FOMO felt. I'm glad we got out of that one. But it did make me curious to see what the impact was with the current oil prices and the lack of storage or distribution of oil, while oil continues to be, for the most part, in some places, still pumping. This gives me a great opportunity to share with you that Wealth Warrior, the course, is coming back. Stay tuned. On the next episode, I will announce the dates of the course. This will be taking place live, so you can join live on a specific weekend taking place in April. We'll give you all of the details in the next episode. And if you can't join live, then you can always purchase the course anyways and watch the recording, which will be yours to keep. Let me talk to you really quickly before we head out on how the market has been performing. I'm not going to go over last week's drop. I'm not even going to go over this morning's drop because I feel like it is irrelevant when we zoom out of the market and take a look at the big picture. From the height of the market, this is how much we have dropped with the geopolitical issues. The Dow is down 6.19%. The S&P 500 is down 3.89%, and the NASDAQ is down 6.29%. This isn't even close to a correction For that indicator, we would be looking specifically at the S&P 500 coming in at a negative 3.89%. As you all already know, a correction is 10% or more, and a crash is 20% or more. So while I understand that the height of geopolitics and the news that is currently taking place feels a bit scary, most especially for our new investors, please know that the market is actually reacting fairly decent, and there really isn't a reason to panic. You certainly shouldn't panic sell at this point. It is important for us to just wait and see how all of this unfolds. There's also other things to take into consideration. How long have you had your investments? Have you had an increase or decrease in profit? How much will you be taxed? All of those things are variables that should be taken into consideration. Overall, what I want to tell you is please do not panic. Do not panic sell. That has never worked out for anybody in the history of investing. So try to manage your emotions and, of course, come back to Investies. Make sure you're subscribed. We will keep you updated. You are listening to Investies podcast. I am your host, Linda Garcia. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today, and let us surprise you.